Hi there, adventurers. I'm glad you've caught me because I'm about to go on a little journey and you can come along. This is Too Many Bones expansion, Splice and Dice. I've not opened it yet, so you really are joining me on a first journey into this game. This is the latest content from Chip Theory Games for Too Many Bones. And there's three types of content in here. There's extra stuff that you can add to your Too Many Bones existing games. And then there's two new ways to play. There's Build a Tyrant and the Nobulus Apprenticeship Program, BAT and NAP. What I'm going to do for you is play Nobulus Apprenticeship Program. I'm going to go through the box, set up and play this game. It's a way to build a tyrant that you can then bring to your existing Too Many Bones games. Build a Tyrant is also a way to build a tyrant, but you build it alongside your existing campaign, and you build it with the bits and pieces of all the baddies that you defeat as you adventure through your regular Too Many Bones adventures. You take all the pieces and you'll create a tyrant that you'll face at the end of your adventure. With the Nobulus Apprenticeship Program, it's a separate game, right? That's what we're going to cover off. But what about this extra content? Well, there's a whole bunch of new tyrants. There's 5 new tyrants. And 2 of those, Oxide and Leech, will require components from Undertow. Whereas 3 of them, Ammonite, Lockgear and Globulus, can be played with either the base game or Undertow. There's also some new Krellin and Mech baddies. So again, these can be mixed in with Undertow. And then you've got some new dual type baddies, and these can be integrated with your existing base game or Undertow. And then we've got 3 more additional baddies. It says they're not dual types, but they will add additional challenges for seasoned players. Perfect. All right, let's get stuck into it. First thing we're going to do is grab all the chips we need. You've got a set of 1 point, 5 point and 20 point baddies. We're going to keep those set aside for the moment. We won't need the mechs and Krellin. And then you're going to need your baddie chips from your base game or from Undertow, whichever you're using, or both if you're mixing them in. And optionally, which I've done, is grab the chips from 40 Days in Daylore. So I'm going to use those and throw those into the mix as well. And from my base game, let's grab our baddie chips. We've also got 2 sliced tyrant chips, a proto tyrant chip, and then 17 tyrant chips. Put those aside too. From these, we're going to create a stack of 15 random 1 point baddies. I've added all the 40 Days of Daylore ones just because I want to. And then a random stack of 15 5 point baddies. And then a random stack of just 2 20 point baddies. Now we're going to add to each stack from the Splice and Dice expansion 5 1 point baddies, 5 5 point baddies, and 3 random 20 point baddies. We'll shuffle them all together to create 3 random active stacks. Any unused will go back to their respective boxes. Now grab your tyrant mat and your lab mat. Now grab some of these pegs. I'm going to place one in the top here of the extra baddies track, one in the leftmost position of the attack track, and then one in the leftmost position of the preferred target track. These symbols should look familiar. On the lab mat, we're going to place a peg on the day track on day 1 and the 0 position of the progress track. We can get rid of these tyrant chips as well. As for dice, I'm going to set aside the 6 spliced tyrant stat dice. Place these up here by the tyrant. We'll need the 9 spliced tyrant dice. These. Not this one, this one. That's your spliced dice tyrant ini die. Okay, so you want these. And then these 10 lab dice are going to go into this drawstring bag. We want to grab a spliced tyrant chip, place it here. We're kind of ready to go. Let's grab some cards. We need the knob deck. These are the bat cards and the tyrant encounter cards, all that stuff. And here we should find the knob cards. Yeah, these are apprentice cards. We'll come back to those in a minute. This is the knob deck, which we're going to give a shuffle. There's 2 levels of difficulty in the game. There's off-season, which is like a moderate challenge, and then there's busy season, which is a little bit more difficult. We're going to do off-season. It asks us to grab the first card of each type. There's 3 types. There's opportunity, tasks, and setbacks. And then we'll reshuffle. And we'll place this over to one side. These will place face up in front of us in a play area. Then we'll grab an apprentice card. We'll shuffle, take one randomly. We're going to be, well, it's Rob Grint. There's a little story as well. When you're playing solo, you can grab 2, pick 1, it says, so you can kind of have a little bit of a choice. Each one's got an ongoing effect, so it's going to change up your game slightly. There are other components you're going to need from your Too Many Bones game, but we'll come back to those later for the end of the game when we're going to do that final battle. The objective of the Nobulus Apprenticeship Programme is we're going to play over the course of 7 days, and we're going to be successful if we successfully create a tyrant who's successful in battle against Nobulus's proto-tyrant for the end of day 7. Okay? We lose if by the end of day 6 we've not successfully created a tyrant in order to send it into battle the next day, or if we lose in that battle against the proto-tyrant. We lose, we failed our apprenticeship, we've lost the game. And then your final creation can be used in your future Too Many Bones games in place of a regular tyrant. Right, to get things off, we're going to do what's called an initial splice. We're going to reveal 2 1-point baddies and 2 5-point baddies from the top of the active stack. These are going to be used to set our initial stats. We're looking for the highest values. So our initial health is the highest, 3357. Health's in the middle here, so 6 plus 1 is 7. Pretty good. Attacks go in here, not so good. Although, well, it's okay, we've got 3. This one's 3, this one's 3. Defense, we've got 1, 2, 1. And initiative, we've got 5. The highest is 5. Initiative goes up here, attack here, and then defense here. Now we look at the types. What types of baddies have we drawn? We're going to place a peg in each one. So these are going to be the associated baddie types with our baddie. Well, we've got a mix, haven't we? Well, 5 different baddie types. When we set these aside, these are going to make up the Proto-Tyrant's battle queue. Right, let's kick off day 1, reveal a knob card. So this card's a task, and it's going to go into our play area. At this point it's worth showing you the NAP guide. This is the reference chart for what a day in the lab looks like. Remember, let's remind ourselves of our objective. We're an apprentice to Nobulus Grint. We're trying to build a tyrant. We're going to use our lab to splice together bits of baddies to create our tyrant. These are lab tanks. This is where the baddies are going to get placed. These are lab dice slots. Remember our lab dice. We're going to splice together parts of baddies, and the parts that get spliced together are determined by these dice. So here we'll be splicing the defense value, here the initiative value, here the health or the attack. And some of these have got skills, so we might be splicing the skills, or its preferred target, or its attack form, whether it's melee or ranged. Okay, so splicing together to build our tyrant, we're going to face a baddie queue of these 4 baddies, right? So we know what's coming. We can kind of prepare for it, and we can use our knowledge of the skills that we're going to, talents that we're going to face on these baddies as well as the proto-tyrant himself to build a tyrant that's going to work successfully against those baddies, and we've got up to 7 days to do it. But there's a secondary requirement. That's the progress chart. How do we know if we've successfully built a tyrant? What does a successfully built tyrant look like? It's when this progress chart hits 5. Every day we do a successful splice, this progress chart goes up. So we could do it in 5 days if we successfully splice every day for 5 days. We're going to bring in the battle map, the standard battle map from Too Many Bones. We're going to create the battle queue. We're going to place our tyrant down and then do battle just like a regular Too Many Bones game. But what does a day look like? This is where these knob cards come in. Every turn we're drawing one of these cards, so we've just drawn a new task. So a day in the lab looks like this. The start, we advance the day track, right? We're on day 1. We're going to reveal the knob card we've just done, and then we're going to perform up to 2 actions. These are the available actions. Right? We're going to be placing dice, we're going to be placing baddies in our lab, and we're also going to be trying to resolve these cards. Once this play area is full of 8 cards, then that signals the end of the day. Now, if we haven't completed all the tasks, at the end of the day we've got this, we're going to do our splicing, and then we've got to clean up. If we haven't completed these cards, when we head into the next day, any that we've ended, any of these cards that have been completed are going to be removed. But, you know, if we've managed to complete all but 2, then on the next day we're only going to have 6 cards drawn. Now remember, that means fewer actions, because every time you draw a card you get 2 actions. If we get to the end of day 1, let's say, and there's 8 cards here and we've only completed 1 of them, when we come to day 2 we're only going to have 1 turn. Right, we're going to draw a card and suddenly there's already 8 here. That's going to end the day, so it's a short day. So you have to cycle through these things to get more actions, because you need actions in order to create successful splices. So the game is one of managing threats, building tension, getting through these threats and managing this enough that you can then divert attention to the lab, because old Nobulus Grint is challenging us during our apprenticeship to complete tasks. So the moment it starts as a request, if we don't complete this at the end of the day, it becomes a demand, and if we don't complete the demand, it becomes a punishment. If we complete the request, then it becomes a reward. That's tasks. For opportunities, this one says quality control. They come with a question mark. In fact, I'll show you one. There's one here. Yeah, that one's got a question mark. That's an opportunity that has a requirement that we must fulfill. Some don't have requirements like this one, which means it's immediately fulfilled. And that means it has an ongoing effect for this work day. It says, during this day you may discard a baddie from your tyrant skills area in order to gain 2 actions. And then at the end of the day, during cleanup, we can either end this task, clear it away, make space for another, or we can keep it and go, actually I quite like that. Let's keep that one there. That's optional. This third one is a setback. Setbacks are bad. This one says the internet is down. And it says it has an instant effect. So when this would have gotten drawn, it says flip over all baddies in the research area. Any baddies that we draw from the active piles, any dice that we draw, the lab dice, remember they go in these slots, baddies go in these. Any dice that we draw, any baddies that we draw go into a research area. It's just a little spot here. And these are baddies and dice that we can play into our lab. Anything in our research area, it says flip over in the research area and in the tanks, and then exhaust any lab dice between tanks 1 and 2. So exhaust these, they go away. So I'm kind of glad that we got this one now, really, it's out of the way. And then the only way to resolve this, to complete it and have it disappear from our play area, is to complete this little requirement down here. What that means is baddies in our play area, we can place on this card 3 baddies with a combined health of 8, and that'll get rid of that card. Right, so that's how you manage these kind of threats, if you like, in your play area, these knob cards. Nobulus's demands, requests, tasks, and setbacks that he's putting in your way. Alright, makes sense? That's our challenge. So that's the kind of game it is. There is going to be some dice rolling, because when we pull dice out of here, we roll them to see what benefits they give us, actually what they're going to do and how we might be. So we're going to be using dice and baddies to fulfill these cards and to put it in our lab to splice and potentially push up the progress chart. So we've got to manage, where do we spend our dice and our baddies, here or here? We have to spend them here in order to push up the progress, in order to create a decent tyrant. Let's start the main part of the game then and commence gameplay. So I've drawn a card. Now I've got up to 2 actions. Okay. So my available actions are, we can draw research lab dice or research baddies, up to 3. We can draw 3 dice from the bag or 3 baddies from the stacks. We can place lab dice or baddies, up to 2, here or here. We can end a request, which uses 2 actions as it goes, or we can perform an action on a card. I don't have any card actions. This is my first action then. Why don't I draw some baddies? Now, one thing to keep in mind is that during each day there's a tank limit. So we're on day 1, right? And it says that during day 1 there's a tank limit of 4. What that means is I can't place more than 4 baddie points worth of baddies over here. So I can draw 5-point baddies if I wish. When you draw baddies, it's really up to you, but I won't be able to place them in the tanks if I do. So why don't we just draw 3 1-point baddies. We're going to research them, that's our first action, and see what we've got. I don't have any with poison or thick skin, but we do have 2 ranged baddies. So I could, as my second action, which says, so I've done that, research lab or research baddies, place lab dice or place baddies up to 2. I could place 2 baddies here. Now you might say, for 2 actions I could have just completed this anyway, or ended it anyway. But at least I've got an extra baddie out, right? The other option is I just keep them in my research area for now. And I could use these 2, that's 4, that's 7, that's 8 health. So 4 and 3, that's pretty good. So I could put those 2 here. This is a really horrible slot filling setback. The other thing is I could potentially use those high health baddies to try and improve my health, my baddie's health. I mean, I started with a really high health of 7. And what that means is it's going to be really hard for me to increase the health to create a positive splice of health. If I splice these 2 together, for example, that's going to give 7, which is not higher. That's not a positive splice, right? Makes sense? So, let me just give you an example. Remember, we want at least 1 positive splice per day. Let's say I put these 2, so put these 2 in here. When we get to our splicing, we're going to go around these 4 dice in clockwise. We start with what's between 1 and 2, what's between 2 and 3, what's between 3 and 4, and then what's between 4 and 1. We'll combine these 2 depending on what's in here. So let's say it was health. Right, so I rolled a health and put it here. That would splice together the combined healths of those 2 pieces of baddie. Right, everything else on the chips is ignored. We're just looking at this, the health. 7. That's not a positive splice, and if it's not a positive splice, it's a negative splice. So a good starting high health, but obviously it gives us few opportunities to improve. In actuality, what I think I'm going to do, my second action, is just roll some dice and see what comes out. So remember, research lab up to 3, so we can take up to 3 dice from the bag. And we're going to roll them. Okay. And place them in our research area. That's our 2 actions done. So if you're playing multiplayer now, we go around the table, but we're playing solo, so it's back to us, and we're going to draw another opportunity. So this could be good. Let's see what it is. Upgraded OS. Okay, we place 2 researched lab dice here, and then we get a reward. Swap a place lab die with a researched one. It was a big day when our operating system changed from a bone saw to a drill. During cleanup, anything that's left in my research area that I've not used is just going to get discarded. And I've got to remember, these baddie stacks are limited. There's an opportunity here for a positive splice. But I don't like those dice rolls. I like that one. I might just draw 3 more baddies. See what comes out. Okay, that's action number 1. Okay. Right, we've got a bog frog that has poison. Okay, that's good. Again, nothing with defense. I've got another ranged. So I think I've got a plan. Let's place 2 baddies. Each of these placements is independent of the next, so you don't place 2 baddies together. It's one placement, then one placement. And in fact, you can even blindly draw from one of these stacks, but you've got to specify your target first. So for example, if I said, right, I'm going to try and fulfill this card here and place a baddie here, and blindly drew, if it wasn't a ranged baddie, it would just get discarded for no effect. But what I'm going to do for my first placement is place 1 baddie here, 1 baddie with poison or thick skin. This immediately completes this request. I've got 1 baddie with poison. That's poison 2. That would have been nice on my... That's a tyrant skill as it goes, but still. Right, now we rotate that. That's its punishment. That's its reward. We immediately rotate it and it says I've got instant effect. Look at the top 3 cards of the knob deck and cycle any you wish to the bottom. Any dice, any baddies that fulfill a request or demand get immediately discarded. Look at the top 3 cards of the knob deck. There's an opportunity here. Oh, there's 3 tasks. And none of them have got rewards. But at the same time, they're not setbacks. So I might just put that one on the bottom. I think these are okay. Alright. So at the end of the day, this is going to go. So that's baddie number 1. Baddie number 2, I'm going to place one of these ranged. I've got 3 to choose from now. I don't think it matters which. Perhaps this one. Right, we'll put that in slot number 1. Right, that's my 2 baddies placed. I've got 2 ranged ones left. Next time I can put them there. Okay, I think that was my second action. So let's draw the next card. We know what it's going to be. I have a lab die here. Next action, I'm going to place 2 baddies here. 2 range. That's not ranged. That one is ranged. Okay, that gets rid of those. Fulfills this. My second action is going to be to place. Well, I want to place some lab dice. I might have to roll again first. Yeah, I might just research 3 more. Let's do that. No, I forgot. I've got to place that face down, haven't I? Because of this. Because the internet is down. Right, so that's my ranged baddie. Let's draw 3 and roll. Right, there's a chance I'll get this. Let's see if I do. Yes, okay, brilliant. Okay, that's my second action. Next, have 1 point baddies in tanks 1 to 3. So now I can place dice. That's my next action. So I'm going to place 1 here. That fulfills this. And I'm going to place this here. That's my second placement, and that's the end of my action. Right, we're doing okay actually, aren't we? Remember, completing these threats means we've got more actions next time. I know we've got a positive splice, so that's going to push this track up. We've got that requirement. So really anything extra now is a bit of a bonus. I know we've got an opportunity coming up. My next action, I'm not sure what to do because the defense dice aren't working for me. The health isn't working for me. I've got 7 here. I could just place 2 dice on here, or I could just try and get rid of this one as well. I think it has to be exactly 8. It says 3 baddies with combined health of 8. I think we're going to have to just leave that. I'm going to place this here. That's my second action, and this here. I hate this card. It's horrible. Right, let's see what this opportunity is. This is the 8th card. It's a breakthrough. The office was never more exciting than the day we learned that geophage spleens are an effective way to store corrosive acid. Well, that is an exciting breakthrough, I must agree. What does it give me? So it's immediately fulfilled. Place a research lab die on this card, choosing its face upside. Dice on this card are treated as researched lab dice. So I can fix a side. So I could, if I wanted to, for example, now I can't remember what was there. as an action, change that to a skill, let's say, acts an action, and then place it here. Interesting. I quite like that. Maybe I'm happy to save that one. This is fulfilled. I could either do this or try and get rid of this. I can't do this now because I can only place 2 baddies. Yeah, this setback's horrible. So my first action is I'm going to roll 3 more dice. Roll 3 more dice. Yeah. Oh, attack, ranged. I've got attack 3. So, do I put range in here? Do I put attack in here? Or do I just put 2 dice on here? I can't remember what the attacks were. I think they were pretty low, weren't they? I think they were 1 and 1, which would be 2, which is not a positive influence on this. I think as my second action, I'm just going to do this. Okay, that's it. That's my 2 actions. That's the 8th card played. That's the end of the day. So what do? We splice and then we clean up. So we do have to reveal these now in order to be able to do the splicing, right? Now as it goes, this isn't going to do very much. So when you're splicing, you're looking at each die in these 4 spots. Baddies that have no dice next to them are not going to do anything because you're resolving the dice, and likewise any dice that has no baddies adjacent is not going to do anything. So we're going to resolve this ranged die first. So a positive splice occurs if any adjacent baddie has the ranged attack form. It does. This one does. What that means is we're going to advance this track from melee towards ranged. That's a positive splice. We've got a positive slice, so we move that up. We're clear for this round. We're 1 step closer to creating our tyrant. Not much advancement, but we have gotten rid of a load of cards. And when we could have put something in here, just because we could have done. So if we had an attack one here, the combined attack strength of these 2 is 2. My current attack strength is 3. If it's greater, so I needed to have 4 or more in here really, for it to be a positive splice. If the resolution of a lab die does not result in a positive splice, then a negative splice occurs instead, which means actually his attack strength would have gone down instead. Okay, we don't want that to happen. Right, but we didn't do that anyway. But we do have Rob Grint, and Rob Grint says his ability, when splicing, you may prevent the effects of 1 negative splice each day. So we could have just taken a chance. Yeah, I really wanted a skill in there, but yeah, the dice weren't working for us. Right, that's it, that's splicing. Let's move to cleanup. And it says, end fulfilled opportunities, optional. So where are fulfilled opportunities? There's 3, 1, 2, 3. Remember these were opportunities. And this is optional, we don't have to get rid of them. So I might want to keep that one. And get rid of these 2. So we end them by turning them face down. Then it says end punishments and rewards. These are rewards. These are punishments. Okay, so we've got 3 rewards. They're all ended. We can't use those again. Oh, and this one. Then it says turn all demands to punishments and all requests to demands. So if we had a request here, that would now turn to a demand. If we had a demand, that would now return to a punishment. Okay, and then it would last for that day, and then it would get ended during cleanup. Right. Okay, then it says discard all ended cards. So these are all going to get discarded. Lovely jubbly. And actually we've got a much longer day 2. Remember we started day 1 with 3 cards here. We're starting day 2 with only 2, which means we're going to have 6 turns, 12 actions. Then it says discard baddies, researched and in tanks. So these get discarded. And then it says return all lab dice to the draw bag. So that's exhausted. stuff that we use down here. This researched and in the labs. And all these are going back to the bag. And then we'll start day 2. And this time we have a tank limit of 8. So we could put a 5-point baddie in one of our lab tanks and 3 ones. The only other one to mention, I guess, is the tyrant dice. So that was, you saw me use that skill die. It's a pretty rare one as it goes. It's only on one of the dice, I think. So this would go in one of your splices, and then if you had a baddie in here, it would grab. See, each baddie has a baddie type. This one has 2. This is one of these dual baddies. And then when you splice, you can grab the tyrant die, oops, of that colour, either colour with the dual, and place it in one of these spots. And we can have up to 3 tyrant dice. So lots of tyrant dice would be great. So yeah, I did use that, and it was potentially a wasted opportunity, but I got rid of a card, and it could come up again. We'll see. We'll see. Alright, and obviously we want to fill some of these skill slots as well with baddie skills. So if we wanted to get secrete and poison in there, we could do baddie. If we splice a baddie skill. But you've got to be a little bit careful. 1-point baddies can be placed in either of these spots. 5-point baddies can be placed in spots 2 or 3, and a 20-point baddie can only be placed in spot 3. Right. Join me next time then as we push on, and we'll see how our tyrant develops.